friends, welcome back to Homestead on a Prayer. I'm Jennifer, and as you can see today we're in my kitchen. We're going to be doing a really easy project today. We're going to be making a staple ingredient that a lot of people have no idea is this easy and simple to make. Today we're going to be making brown sugar. And as I mentioned, this is pretty much the easiest, I don't even want to say recipe, it's pretty much the easiest cooking technique you can imagine. We only need two ingredients. You're going to need just a plain white sugar, and you're going to need some type of molasses. You can see here that I have Blackstrap Molasses, which is different than probably the molasses that most people would choose. I think most people would prefer the old-fashioned molasses. Old-fashioned molasses is a little bit lighter, it's a little bit sweeter. I like the Blackstrap because it has a little more complex flavor. It's got a little bit of bitterness to it, which I really like the contrast of the bitterness along with the sweetness of the sugar. And it's also got a lot more minerals in it, so it's really better for you. But you can just choose whatever works for you. The process is going to be the same either way. Because I use the Blackstrap Molasses, which is a little bit darker, even though I prefer a dark brown sugar, I don't put quite as much molasses as you normally would for dark brown sugar because, as I mentioned, it is a darker molasses to begin with. So there are a couple reasons why I like to make my own brown sugar. If you're buying a high quality brown sugar, that's pretty expensive and it's also pretty hard to find. And so I find it easier and cheaper to make my own. It's a lot easier to get a high quality white sugar and a high quality molasses and just combine the two. So you'll end up saving yourself quite a bit of money. And then kind of going along with that, you can control the type of ingredients that go into it. Like I mentioned, I like to use a Blackstrap Molasses. I don't even know if you can find brown sugar that uses Blackstrap Molasses. I imagine it probably does exist somewhere, but it's not easy to find. Another reason is that if you like to have some extra pantry staples on hand, and especially with everything going on in the world right now, I know a lot of us are finding it more important than ever to have a little bit extra pantry staples on hand right now. So if you're trying to stock up a little bit, you've probably noticed that brown sugar really does not store as well as white sugar. White sugar, if you store it in the right conditions, it'll store for years. Some people even say that it stores indefinitely. Brown sugar does not. So if you've worked with brown sugar a lot, you've probably noticed that it tends to dry out pretty easily, pretty quickly. So this way, you can easily store the ingredients, you can easily store the sugar, you can easily store the molasses, and just when you run out of brown sugar, you can go ahead and make up a new batch. And then kind of going along with it, it's just nice. I am the type of person who, I make a shopping list, I go to the store once a week. All the grocery stores are about a half hour from my house, so I'm not going there more than once a week. If we run out of something during the week, then it's gone. But if you really want to make something that involves brown sugar and you don't have it, most people will always have sugar. And if you get in the habit of having molasses as well, you could very easily make brown sugar whenever you need it and save yourself some extra trips to the store. So you can see why this is a project that I've chosen to do today. My brown sugar is pretty much gone, it needs to be replaced. So basically what I do is I make about enough to mostly fill up this canister when I make it. And this amount, we go through brown sugar pretty fast in my house, but this amount will not dry out or go bad in the amount of time that we use it. So basically I just make this much, use it, and then when it's gone, I know it's time to make a new batch. So that's what we're gonna do today. And I figured I would take you guys along for the ride and we can make it together. And after we finish our brown sugar, I'm gonna show you guys another really exciting recipe. It's a brown sugar iced latte, which is a delicious drink for summer or anytime it's a little bit warm. So after we finish the brown sugar, don't go anywhere because you're gonna wanna make this latte. Okay, so we've got our stand mixer here set up. I've gone ahead and put the whisk attachment on it. The basic rule of thumb is that if you want to make light brown sugar, you're going to use 1 tablespoon of molasses for each cup of sugar. And if you want to make dark brown sugar, basically you're going to use about 2 tablespoons of molasses to each cup of white sugar. I like dark brown sugar, but as I mentioned before, because I have Blackstrap Molasses, which is a little bit darker than a regular molasses, I'm going to use a little bit less than 2 tablespoons per each cup. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and measure out our sugar. That's going to go into our stand mixer here. 1, 2, and you can definitely make a smaller batch than this. I'm making a lot because we go through a lot of brown sugar and I don't want to have to make it too often. But as I said, you can definitely make a smaller batch than this if you want. So I'm going to start with about 5 cups of sugar. My canister will hold a little bit more than that, but I'm not sure how much more my stand mixer will hold. So we're going to start with that. Now we're going to go ahead and put some molasses in. So remember, for dark brown sugar, which is what I want to make, it's about 2 tablespoons per cup. I'm going to go a little bit shy of that. But you can always adjust this as you go too. If you make it and you don't think it's quite dark enough, you can add a little more molasses. If you think that it's a little bit too dark, you can go ahead and add more white sugar, and that will have the opposite effect. I think that's 5. I'm talking and I'm losing track of what I'm doing. But as I said, if I have added too much, I can go ahead and add a little bit more sugar after. Okay, so I think if I was counting right while I was talking, I think that was 8. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong. So we're gonna go ahead and mix this up and we'll see if we need any more. Now this isn't quite as dark as I was hoping, so I'm gonna go ahead and add 2 more tablespoons of molasses, and then we'll go ahead and mix it up again. Now you could see as I was mixing that I was scraping down the sides of the bowl periodically. You want to do that because sometimes the molasses will kind of stick to the sides of the bowl, and you want to make sure that you get it evenly distributed so that you don't have any extra dark clumps or clumps that don't have any molasses in them in your final sugar product. So let's go ahead and give this another mix and see if this is a good darkness for us. All right, so this looks pretty good. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this all added into our brown sugar canister, and I'll see if we need to make any more. And then we're gonna go ahead and make our brown sugar latte. All right, so we're ready to make the syrup for our brown sugar lattes. As always, I'm gonna put all of the ingredients for this recipe into the video description so you don't have to worry about following along or writing it down. I'm also going to link the website to give credit to the person who originally came up with this recipe, so you can go ahead and check out her website as well. So we have our pan ready here. The first thing we're going to add is 1 cup of water. We're going to go ahead and add that to our pan. Then we're going to need 3/4 of a cup of this nice brown sugar that we just made together. And of course, when you're measuring brown sugar, you want to go ahead and pack it down. I'm going to add that to our water. I have here 2 cinnamon sticks. If you don't have cinnamon sticks, you could use ground cinnamon instead. I do highly recommend cinnamon sticks though. I think they add a little something that the powdered cinnamon doesn't add. Plus, it's been my experience that powdered cinnamon doesn't really dissolve very well. And so putting these cinnamon sticks into our syrup as it heats up will help the flavor to really incorporate through the whole syrup. So we're going to go ahead and put those in. Okay, so I've turned on our heat, turned it on medium, and I'm just going to start whisking this to dissolve the sugar. All right, so we're just gonna go ahead and bring this up to a gentle boil. Once it comes up to a gentle boil, we're gonna turn it down a little bit. We'll simmer it for probably about 2 or 3 minutes until the sugar is really incorporated. And this same simple syrup technique, you can use to sweeten anything that's cold, because cold things don't like to dissolve sugar very easily. So for example, if you're making a lemonade, rather than taking lemon juice, water, and sugar, which are your main ingredients, and mixing them together, your sugar wouldn't really want to dissolve in your lemonade because it's cold. So the easier thing to do is to ahead of time make a simple syrup. For a lemonade, I would recommend just a plain white sugar. But you're just going to mix them together on the stovetop. The hot water will dissolve your sugar. Then you put it in the fridge to chill. And then when it's time to sweeten your lemonade, you can go ahead and take out your simple syrup rather than using just white sugar that's not going to dissolve well. So this is the same concept here. Because this is going to be a cold drink, we want to go ahead and dissolve our brown sugar ahead of time. Plus, making it ahead of time allows us to incorporate some other flavors as well. We have cinnamon in here. Once we take it off the heat, we're going to add some vanilla extract also. Okay, so as you can see, our syrup is boiling now. I've gone ahead and turned down the temperature to about a medium low so that it can simmer for a couple minutes. So we're gonna let it simmer for about 2 or 3 minutes just to really draw out the flavor of the cinnamon sticks. So I'm gonna go ahead and put you into a time lapse. You just wanna make sure that you stir occasionally, and I'll meet you back here when it's done simmering. All right, so our syrup has finished simmering. So now it's time to go ahead and we're going to add a couple teaspoons of vanilla extract to the syrup just to really take it to the next level. And I can tell you, it already smells amazing. So I've got some homemade vanilla extract here. If you haven't tried making your own, I highly recommend it. It's so easy and you can save a lot of money making it yourself. And that just made it smell even better. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull the cinnamon sticks out. And I think that actually, I think the original recipe only called for 1 cinnamon stick, but I think that having 2 really takes it to the next level. So that's what I do. Okay, so now our syrup is finished. I have these 2 jars here because I don't think it's gonna fit in one. Here's my canning funnel, multi-purpose, so we use it even when it's not canning season. So we're gonna go ahead and ladle our syrup into our jars. And this is going to have to cool down completely before we actually make our latte. This is an iced drink, so we don't want to be putting hot syrup into it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and fill these jars. I'm gonna put these in the refrigerator, probably until tomorrow morning, and I will meet you here tomorrow. Hi friends, it's the next morning, so we're ready to go ahead and assemble and enjoy our delicious brown sugar iced lattes. So I've gotten together all the ingredients that we're going to need. I've pulled our brown sugar cinnamon syrup out of the refrigerator. It's gotten nice and cool overnight. So I'm just gonna pan you down so that you can see all the ingredients that you're gonna need, and then we'll just go through this process together. Okay, so you can see here, this is our cooled syrup that we made together yesterday. I have, here in this mug, I have 3 shots of espresso. I have chosen to use decaf espresso because 3 shots of caffeinated espresso for me is not a good choice. So you're gonna need a little bit more cinnamon. I know we put some cinnamon in our syrup, but we're gonna have a little bit more powdered cinnamon as well. You're going to need something to shake your espresso and your syrup and your ice together with. So I just have a 16-ounce mason jar here. You can go ahead and if you have a drink shaker, you could use that too. We have a glass that we're gonna put our finished drink in, and we have 1 cup of milk. I just have whole cow's milk here. You can go ahead and use oat milk, almond milk, pretty much any kind of milk that you like. So what we're going to do, first we're going to measure out our syrup. Now this recipe says to use between 2 and 4, oh, this kind of sealed in the fridge last night, so let me pop that off, there we go. So this recipe says to use between 2 and 4 tablespoons of syrup for each latte. I like my coffee a little bit less sweet, so we're gonna go with 2 tablespoons, but you can certainly add more if you like your coffee a little on the sweeter side. So we're just going to spoon that right over our ice. We're going to add just a little sprinkle of cinnamon here. And then we're going to add our 3 shots of espresso. I did let this cool a little bit, but because it's being shaken over ice, you don't actually really have to do that. So now we're gonna go ahead and shake this. This is where you get your workout for the day. You're gonna take this and you're gonna shake it vigorously for 1 full minute. So I'm probably going to skip over some of this so you don't have to see me shaking a jar for a minute, but here we go. All right, it's been 1 minute. You can see that our syrup and our espresso and our cinnamon are nicely incorporated. They've been chilled because they've been shaken over our ice. So now we're going to go ahead and, oh, you know what? I forgot to get out a strainer. I'm gonna grab a strainer and we're going to strain this into our glass. Okay, I've gotten out our strainer. Now we're going to take a couple more ice cubes and put them in our glass. And then we're gonna go ahead and strain our espresso right over the ice. Let's go ahead and strain that in there. And then I like to get every last little bit of this foam because it is delicious. Okay, now here's where the magic happens. We're going to add our cup of milk right over our espresso and watch it swirl together so beautifully. And it looks like I'm not going to be able to fit quite the whole cup in my glass, but there you have it, a delicious brown sugar iced latte. So I brought our delicious brown sugar latte that we just made together outside so that I can enjoy it with my chickens. Cheers.